Welcome back, everybody, to the Nerding Grounds podcast. This is a weekly show where we talk about video games, old and new. My name is Quinn.
And I'm Matt.
How you doing?
Good.
Good, good, good. Good.
Living the
La vida
dream.
loca.
Well.
Living the dream. Um, so I thought what would be fun is if we go
Fun.
ahead and and we make this early space of the podcast our dedicated spot for news and quirky anecdotes. So if we have a news update like we did last time, great. If we just have something we want to share because, it may not be a video game, but it could be something related to or not. You got anything?
I was about to say, but what if we don't? What if it's like it's been so jam packed, right? And now it's quiet. At least in my in my life, it's kind of like I'm just playing the things that I've been excited to play, and then I got tired or beat those things, and so
then you
what do
just took a
what do
break.
yeah.
Maybe you can do a hold on. Maybe you can do a PSA to our listeners that sometimes it's okay to take a break and just escape from the medium for a little bit, but continue listening to the Nerding Grounds podcast.
Yeah, continue. Well, you get your medium from other media, right? You get it from your podcast, your favorite video game podcast. Or
Um,
stream, whatever.
or stream, whatever. I have a quirky little anecdote. Um, so I took a little bit of a break last week and dove back into my retro modding stuff.
Right.
And this guy finally arrived, which, if
I
you
know.
follow the TikTok channel, you probably saw a video for that. Um, but yeah, basically, I finally got to putting this together and shaping it up to be what I wanted it to be, and it's really cool. It's a nice novelty little thing, and I've been playing like Pokemon on it and stuff, and
It's
it's
so
kind of
small.
it's so small. Feels
How
like
do we
tiny.
like? I feel like these days that would hurt my hand.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes this little like
Oh,
it's
what
not
the?
bad,
Yeah.
but it does. For anybody listening, it almost fits in the palm of my hand, but it is a little bigger than say like maybe your Nano handhelds, so it's not too bad. And it plays everything to PlayStation 1, so that's cool. And then I have really I'm just obsessed and it's a novelty. It's not
Right.
necessary. I had everything in the palm of my hand with my Odin thing, but
Right. Now it's
whatever.
even more so palm in your hand.
Yeah, and I went to the doctor's office last week and I just grabbed that and threw it in my pocket.
Yeah.
And it was a little more portable and you just turn it on and it's there's no there's not a lot of crap with it. It's not like an Android operating system or Windows or Linux or whatever. It's just a very bare bones operating system, and I did put a custom firmware on there called Garlic OS, and it just gets right to the point. It's like, here are your games, here are your favorite games, and very few settings. So it's not bad for someone that just wants something simple to play like old retro stuff up to PlayStation 1.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up, back when we discussed that whole Unity thing going on, there was apparently another huge story a couple weeks ago about Xbox having like a giant leak of all their internal classified information because of their dealings with the trade commission and everything over that Activision deal.
Right.
And apparently, a bunch of stuff got out about the new Xbox design for like 2026 or 27 or something. The far off, next console edition,
Oh,
controllers, different
yeah.
plans, possible acquisitions, all that stuff. But the thing that piqued my interest was that the new Xbox is apparently going to go for a diskless model.
Right.
And that had me thinking, okay, so eventually consoles are just not going to have
Yeah.
disk drives,
I
and
mean, they
games
are
are likely not going to be sold physically. And if they are sold physically, it's going to be akin to one of those hanging cards in a GameStop or something like that.
right. Yeah, I mean, they're currently the only space where that basically still exists. I know they have like Blu-ray discs and stuff, but not really. Everything's done online, so it just
Well,
makes
especially with streaming
yeah,
has
um,
gotten so prevalent.
yeah, of course. So it does make sense. For me, I think we've definitely discussed this before, but we're collectors. We like to have the physical copies just sitting there on a nice little display. Um, but I feel like more and more that isn't even the case, right? Like most new games I buy on my computer anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't
And I still do try to, I should not have turned my camera. I still do try to snatch up a physical copy every now and again because it's just kind of ingrained in me, especially when it comes to things like Final Fantasies. And when, like Rebirth comes out, I'm probably going to get a collector's edition of that because I have the remake collector's edition sitting on my shelf. And I just kind of
same.
I'm a little bit of a completionist about that stuff. But it begs the question, what are we actually buying? you know, most
A
of those
plastic or
games,
tin box,
yeah, I can go over my PlayStation 2 stack and pull out any one of those games, and they're going to run on my PlayStation 2, no problem. PlayStation 3, maybe not as much, but I'm pretty sure I could get away with almost everything running on that system. But PlayStation 4 and on, and Xbox One and on, those games have been patched and updated so many times. I don't know that you could play much of anything without an established connection. And so, like, what are we actually holding? Like, I don't think we're protected in the fact that we have a physical copy, other than the small window of time we have to still resell some stuff until brick and mortar is kaput.
yeah. I guess that would be the only thing is the idea of like, um, I mean, technically, if I own something, then I should be able to give it away or sell it at my leisure, right? But
Yep.
you can't do that with digital products. So it definitely works out for them. It is more just feasible in general. I mean, we are looking at the there just isn't on a disc medium. There isn't enough space. It's
No.
just like literally you can't. You're gonna have like you know and nobody wants to go back to disc swapping or
No.
anything like that, as
Or
nostalgic as
multi-disc
might that
stuff.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah. Oh,
multi-disc
yeah.
things where we gotta, now please enter disc two, right?
Some of them do that. I mean, Cyberpunk, I think, was the last one I went to install my PlayStation, and I was surprised to see that it came in 2 discs, or it was something like that. I don't know. There's an install disc for something.
Right.
Maybe it's Last of Us Part 2, I think, has 2 discs. I don't know. There's a couple games that do that. But
I
yeah,
think
it's
Rebirth is they
gonna
said was
be.
gonna be 3 or 4 discs or something like that.
Yeah, they'll have data discs and stuff, but can you harvest that data from that disk without a connection? I don't even know. Maybe you can, and then that still doesn't take into account patches. And even if you were going to play a game unpatched, sometimes it doesn't let you.
Yeah. Well, you have to
Um,
be completely free of internet connection.
yeah, and I'm like hypothetically, if we ever
Yeah.
something ever severs us from that, you know, do our video games go with it? I know that's
I
obviously
mean,
not
basically,
the
but
the most important thing, but you have to ask the question sometimes.
yeah.
How safe is all that? And how safe is all that data?
I mean, so let's talk about Final Fantasy. We talked to them last week or 2 weeks ago how, Square Enix, they were at a loss of 2 billion, right? And
hmm
analysts didn't know if they could possibly recover from that. If we're living in a world where Square Enix does shut down, where does any of that go? Some company, some type of entity has to decide to take that over.
Somebody
If
would have to buy it, which
otherwise,
Sony
yeah,
probably would,
yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, probably. But if not, yeah, I mean, it does go away.
and that's just
If Steam ever
crazy.
shuts down, all that does go away.
Yeah, and I guess that was the question we were asking a long time ago when Steam was becoming so big. Um, yeah, it puts a bad feeling. I don't know. It makes when I pick up physical stuff, it makes me feel much less attached to it, knowing that it's more of a representation of a game that I bought than it is the actual game.
Right,
And not to mention, if something happens to that disc, for some reason I don't have the game anymore because the digital copy is ever so slightly different,
right.
even though much of what you're downloading is digital anyway. It's all this like very arbitrary red tape, I
Right.
guess, in this new age of digital like downloads and stuff.
So basically, what we do need though is just bigger hard drives, because even though you can swap them out, especially on like the PlayStation stuff like that, the hard drive size in these consoles are a joke. So if we're
Oh my
swapping
God,
over
yeah.
to and the only option being no disk, that is fine, but you better give me a couple terabytes on at
Yeah,
least an SSD.
like at least 2 terabytes out the gate. And
Yeah.
even that is pushing it. But when the PlayStation 5 launched with 1 terabyte, I was just like, are you
Yeah.
freaking kidding me? And I know it's an SSD. I get it. They're not the cheapest, but it's not that bad.
Well, when they came out, sure. But these
Yeah.
things, and they constantly getting smaller and increasing in size, so they get
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yeah. All right. Should we hop over to talking about games that we're playing?
Yes,
Let's go.
we shall. Let's go. Uh, well, I was playing Lies of P.
Hmm.
I still, I think my opinions of that are still the same. It is a good Souls-like game for sure.
As
I'm
I've
not,
seen echoed.
yeah, not disappointed in the slight bit. I will say I have stopped because it starts to lean into, which you will love so much, the double health bar scenario.
Oh,
The oh, you killed the boss, but not really.
but he's alive again.
It just starts to do that back to back to back to back to back, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I think I'm like 3 or 4 bosses away from the final one. um
Oh, really? Okay. So you've been
yeah,
putting in work.
yeah, I was putting in a lot of work for sure, and then I was just like, I got to this other boss, and like every single boss pretty much, it's been like, let me go get my butt kicked for 30 so times
Yeah.
before I finally kill this thing, give or take. And I was just like, I need a break. I need a break from this game. But I do see myself
Yeah.
maybe going back and beating it. But after that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of been like, I don't know what to play, or if
Mm.
I should be getting serious about my life and doing something else.
What do you mean? This is so
You're
serious.
right. You're right. That's stupid. That's the dumbest thought I've ever had.
Once this video game podcast slash YouTube channel takes off, you're gonna be eating those words.
I know.
Quite
What the
frankly, I'm
fuck am I even
embarrassed.
I mean, so am I. And it's
Um,
definitely one of those like lull periods. I'm playing like I will say, like, I've dabbled in WoW a little bit, right? I always go back to the MMOs and the ARPGs or something like that, just because I feel like you can get, in the least, you can have a sense of accomplishment in like an hour or so, right? Like, I got a
yeah,
level,
yeah.
I got a piece of gear, something like that. I'm good.
Well, October is certainly not short on game releases, but also maybe it's a good time to go tackle something that you has been on your list for a while, or something that you've wanted to revisit. Play Death Stranding.
Yeah, I could definitely play that. There is
Um,
there is a massive list, right?
Yeah, there is always a massive list of games to play. I have a few. I have one big one that I really want to talk about. And I'll obviously have to refrain from specifics, but you'll see. Quick update. I started the Resident Evil 4 DLC today, the Separate Ways, which is Ada's campaign,
Oh, okay.
and I'm only like an hour into it. And it's probably 3 to 4 hours or something like that. But so far I feel like it's pretty substantial for being an add-on DLC.
I didn't even know they had it.
It just released this week, I think. Um, because I feel like a lot of times when you have a game like this and then you add another character's, side mission or something, it
Right,
can just really feel like a watered down version of the game.
definitely.
And that takes a lot out of it because you're like, well, I really like that game for what it is, and now you're giving me kind of a highlights based version of what it is, and it just feels diluted. This feels pretty expansive. I don't like not expansive, but it feels like an actual campaign for her. She has her own weapons. She picks up stuff just like Leon does. She has inventory management. She has treasures. You get to talk to the merchants. You get to unlock new weapons. It's actually, it's like a light version of the game, but it's not taking away any of the features. And
Right,
so that I think works in its favor. And you're doing this really cool thing where you're simultaneously running through the campaign and you're going to meet up with Leon in the spots where like Leon meets up with Ada.
yeah,
But it's like you start at the castle and you're working your way down to the village. And so it's almost this like flanking of the campaign where you're coming up on enemies that are unaware of you because they're looking this way where Leon's supposed to be coming from. And so it seems a lot more stealth oriented too, which
yeah,
they added all those elements in the game. And so
right,
kind of feels like there's a reason for that now. Where Leon's it was you can get away with a few knife kills to conserve your ammo, but it's not a stealth game. And this doesn't feel like a stealth game. It just feels like it leans on those or allows those elements a little bit more.
right.
So,
That's pretty cool.
so far I like it.
Yeah. Um, that's another game I could play for sure.
Did you never started for, right?
No, not the
Oh,
remake. No.
you should definitely get on that. That's a good one.
And isn't Alan Wake 2 coming out soon, or is it already out?
That comes out on the 27th. Um,
Oh wow.
and
Yeah, never.
yeah, I listened to another podcast, sorry, where
Look at you.
the person I was listening to, well, it's Nextlander. It's another group I follow on YouTube. Bunch of old guard gamer guys. Um, but this guy Brad Shoemaker actually got to go play a couple hours of Alan Wake 2 with the director of the game.
Nice.
And that game sounds like it's shaping up to be really ambitious and really cool. I'm
Oh
looking
yeah.
forward to it. More survival horror than the first one was.
I'm pretty excited. I'm sure I'm going to be too much of a chicken to really play it a lot, but I'm excited.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot more influence from Control in
Hmm.
that style. I I I mean Alan Wake,
As they should, as
yeah.
it definitely should.
I don't know that they're gonna go. I don't know. Actually, I'm remembering some of the preview now, and there were some pretty freaky elements going on there.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like if you got through Control, maybe you'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, Control is just more like ambiance, right?
Yeah,
That was
unsettling.
creepy. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. So you kind of like you're like, at least for me, it is like maybe not. I'm on edge, right, playing it, but I'm not scared. I guess I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
scared. You're scared.
Nuh-uh. It's like X Files versus I don't know something super scary. It's like
Right.
X Files is creepy, but it's not necessarily
Yeah. Which I
terrifying.
guess I kind of I definitely prefer, but
Yeah. You could play Spider-Man before Spider-Man 2 comes out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know there is just a ton of games. It's just kind of finding like the thing that I really want to play. I I don't know what that is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It
get that.
happens.
It does happen. That is a good time to go, and that's when I started this whole thing, which was like, I don't really feel like playing anything new right now. I just want to go revisit all the classic stuff and catalog all those things. So that's what I did.
Maybe I should start a band.
Ooh, what kind of band would you start?
I think you know.
Mm, math rock.
Yes.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Um, so my other big video game venture. Over the weekend, I decided to drop everything and beat Final Fantasy XVI. And I did. I did it. I got through the game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh, Opinion. Now that you've finished the game,
I think it's a really good Final Fantasy. I think it's a really good action game. I think there are things that hold it down from being great.
right? As
Um,
you know, so same for and I adored 15, but same for 15, and we're gonna forget 13, but
yeah.
I mean 12 is cool, but kind of beginning of the fall, but not really. They're just obviously trying to find out what it is that they they want to do. But go
Yeah.
on.
And unlike those games, I I feel like this one is a little more comfortable in its identity, which is good. It doesn't
Yeah,
feel like it's scratching for whatever. The combat system is really good, really engaging. It kept me hooked the whole time because, as you're getting new icon abilities, you're unlocking skill trees. And I mean, the skill, when I say skill tree, it's like you have four possible abilities, one of them being your like not passive, but like a dodge or a
right.
I don't know. It's confusing, but and then you have like ones you can switch out. Um, and if you know the Final Fantasy summons, you know which ones you get. It's Ifrit, as they pronounce it in this game, is your main one. We got like Phoenix and Ifrit, Garuda, Ramu, Titan, Bahamut,
Bahamut.
Shiva, and Odin. Odin being the one you get with like 5 hours left of the game, and so there's really not a lot of
Of
time to
course.
wrap your
Yeah.
head around it. But I was constantly changing my build the whole time, and that felt refreshing. But oh my god, this game wore me down so much. Like
Like just
every every time, like the story never let me down. The story was awesome all the way through. I was so into it all the way to the end, and I love the end. I like the end a lot. The end is bittersweet in many ways, as Final Fantasy often is. But love the story, love the action, all the set pieces, great. Sometimes I had no idea what was going on, not from an information wise, from like a sensory overload. Like, oh my god, there's so many lights on the screen. I can't make heads or tails of. Am I winning? I don't know. We'll find out. But all that was A plus. Loved it. That's the great stuff about the game. Then the game does this thing where every time there's a big chapter finisher or a story moment where, fight spoilers, you kill someone or defeat someone and take their icon ability. While there's great things that are happening with not only your personal band of outlaws story, the entire landscape of this kingdom shifts with all of like you taking out these leaders and you doing these big, um, you know, these big like I guess you would call them terrorist strike jobs or whatever, because that's kind of what's going on. Like you actually see politically the landscape change, and that's really cool. But then they do this thing where they just launch you into like 10 or 15 side quests. And while some of the side quests are really entertaining and well written and good for character background and all this stuff, oh my God, it just like sometimes you're ready to keep going. Like that
Right.
energy is like up and you just want to keep going. You want to find out more. And then it just goes, stop, go do all these things. And when I say side quests, I mean talk to this person, kill that. Talk to this person, kill that. Bring that item back, bring that item back.
Right.
Every time.
Fetch quest. Yeah.
All of them. Like there's barely a difference. Sorry, I'm sick and I'm running out of breath.
Yeah, it's fine.
um, and at some point, you get to this stage where you're like, I'm ready for this game to be over.
Yeah.
Like I'm done here. It's starting to just feel like it's overstaying its welcome. And I want to get back to the good shit and I want to finish the story. And then I got to like what I thought might be the end, and it wasn't, which was fine. I'm all
Right.
for more spectacle, more set piece. And I guess this could be my naivete, but we went back to the thing. And even though you just launched into like the end game stuff, like the bad stuff, like, oh my God, the sky is effed and
Yeah.
the big bad is waiting for
Calamity.
you. Yeah. You know, like every JRPG, the big bad's waiting for you in their fortress. And it's
Yeah.
like, we got to go do the final assault.
Meteors coming down. It's going to destroy the world. The only person that can stop it is a spiky haired kid from the slums.
Yeah. Yeah. They chose that point to give me 10 side quests that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and the worst part is it was wrapping up a lot of character arcs, like information about your parents and your kingdom and stuff that I actually found interesting and like I wanted to know more about. But oh my God, I was so freaking like done with it. I was so ready to go. And you know that's the worst thing. It's like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be done with this game, and the game just won't let me go. It won't like. And granted, you don't have to do these missions. That's my,
Right.
to a certain extent, that's my problem. But
You
this
have to do
game,
the missions.
this,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like a game like Skyrim where you kind of just accept the fact that you're not going to see everything,
Right.
and you're just like, okay, I'm not. It's too much. It's too much crap. All this stuff feels very much in your face of like, here are the 5 side quests you can do right now. Because the game, while being free roaming, you can go, for the most part, you can go wherever you want at any time. It feels very much on rails. And that
Yeah.
meaning you're like, the story follows a certain path, of course, but then you get these side quests at this time. And so it doesn't feel like you can just push those aside and do them later. It feels like when you reach the next crescendo of the story, those side quests might not be available anymore. And so it
Right.
creates this like timed exclusivity. And it doesn't feel RPG-ish. It feels like, I don't know, it feels on rails. And even
I mean, let's be honest. The game is,
it is,
without
it is.
playing it is on rails for sure. But it's more, I guess, more of like a tin sort of experience. How that was
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
with
that can
less
totally work
backtracking. I don't know. Yeah, clearly. But yeah, I mean,
because 10 will literally just bring you into a loading screen and saw and draw you traveling across a map. You don't have any control over that.
right.
This you do. You can go back anywhere you want, and that's fine. But everything feels very pseudo. It's like zones. And I've
Yeah.
I've said this before. There's no big cities, there's no the world doesn't feel super lived in.
Yeah.
It's cool from a set piece perspective, but it doesn't feel super lived in and alive. That's fine. But like the gear system feels on rails. It's like you're going to get these items at a certain time that are going to allow you to get these weapons at a certain time. There's
Yeah.
really no way to control your gear in that way, aside from equipping trinkets to do different buffs. That's about it.
Which is kind of, and I guess that's just how the game's set up, you know. You would have to have, is it Clyde? That's his name, right?
Clive.
Clive with the V. Sorry, they really like to throw in those extra, those different letters to trip me up.
Constantly.
Clive would have to have like different weapons, right, for you to be able to diversify in the equipment in any sort of way. Other than that, it's just going to be linear HP up, MP up, defense up, attack up. You know,
But what if your equipment lined up better with the summons that you were using? Because
it
you can
could,
only
right?
use 3 at a time. That's the
Yeah,
thing. And so I wound up making a build where it's like I started out and I was using mostly Ifrit. Never really liked Garuda. I thought the skills were awkward.
a lot
Ifrit,
of combat there, right?
yeah, used Ramu the whole time almost until the very end where I wound up just taking Ramu's skills and coupling it with different summons because I liked the circle attacks better. And then Bahamut and Odin and Shiva were like my main things. But that's the thing is you can upgrade to take skills from anywhere and put them anywhere. And so you
Yeah.
really can create your own like muscle memory function. That's the best part of the game, in my opinion, aside from the spectacle, which is insane. That's what
I,
keeps it from being great to me is the fact that it totally just kills your buzz when you're like ready to see all this stuff. And I had to leave some quests behind because I was like, I don't have like I'm gonna go into this with a negative outlook finishing this game if I sit here and plug away at all these side quests that I don't care about.
right. Um. Yeah, and I guess it's just we've definitely talked about that before. I feel like that is there's these other companies like CD Project Red that can really make a side quest exciting, you know, and um, a lot of JRPGs just don't have that even a little bit. It's still the traditional like fetch quest and go to do this, go do that, and to tie major not major storyline elements, but a lot of background story elements into that's a bit of a bummer. You can make it a little bit more exciting, or I don't know. I feel like there's even been older Final Fantasy games. They had the idea of it's not like you went to the quest marker, right? They just kind of had these
Yeah.
like long running throughout the game, sometimes short but often like long running pieces throughout the game that you kind of like go through. uh
Yeah.
I don't have a good example on the top of my head, but
Well,
there's just kind of
like
like
look at 7 and even the way that they the quests weren't the side quests weren't great in 7. A lot of them were fetchy and I'm talking about
yeah,
remake.
of course,
But for the most part, like you can run into someone in a town and it just catches your eye. Like someone runs off into a building and it's like there's a giant creature, like standing in front of that building. That's interesting. I want to go see
yeah,
what's going on. And then you start a side quest. But for this to show 5 green markers in your base, and you have to go to those markers, get those quests, travel to where the quests are, travel back to give them the item. It's like, oh my God.
yeah, they could have just put them out in the open world, right, and
Yeah,
have you kind of go through those things and give you reasons to backtrack, right? Like real good reasons to backtrack, not just the
exactly.
quest is telling you to go here, you know?
Right.
Uh,
That
but
being said, yeah, go ahead.
maybe it's something to do with just how Division 3, is that what it is? Is that what,
Division 2?
is it Division? Yeah, Division
The
2.
Ubisoft game?
No, I'm talking about the group that does Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy
Oh, the
14, but then,
developer.
yeah,
Creative Business Unit 3.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought you were like, are you talking about Division?
No, 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 no. Whatever. Uh, you know, the second group in the place with that does the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got it. You know? That it's obviously kind of just their pipeline
It is.
because what do? They make a central story around a bunch of fetch quests
Yeah, yeah.
for,
And I
10
don't
whole levels at a time.
and I don't hate that. You know, that's okay. But when it's this almost God of War-esque linear but not linear action game, I don't know that that works for the
Yeah,
long term.
I don't think so either.
Maybe if you cut the quest in half, and not to mention like the rewards aren't great either because you know you're not going to get anything crazy like unless
Yeah,
it's a you know a an item that gives you a little more defense in this or that. But no, like none of the rewards were really super worth it. You didn't get like a new vehicle or something. That
yeah.
was crazy cool.
So think about they need to do things a different way there, right? Or
Yeah,
they
I could.
should.
Yeah, but that being said, I very much like this game, um, and they knocked it out of the freaking park with this story. It was one of the best Final Fantasy stories I've ever experienced.
I figured it was going to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, just from a world building standpoint, the characters were very, very well portrayed. Clive, great protagonist. He seems to fit maybe a little more in a different era of video games, but it still works here. Like I could see him in like a PlayStation 2 game. He would have been an excellent protagonist, but now that we have a lot more grounded and epic stories, maybe he's just a really good one. But
Right.
voice acting wise, fantastic.
I
His
mean,
relation,
that's kind of Final Fantasy though, right? Like
yeah,
our main characters are more stoic in PlayStation 2 era
yeah.
for sure.
And while he may be stoic, there's a lot of personality and drive to him. Like
Right.
he has a cause he super believes in, and he really does feel like a leader, not someone that is in the captain's chair but is like reluctant to lead or anything, or like can't be asked to lead or something like that.
Yeah.
And then all the characters he interacts with, you really feel like they are building up a family of this group of outlaws that are fighting back against the order and the powers that be.
Now hear me out.
Yeah,
Do you think the game would be better if those people were in your party
it's.
permanently?
I think they could have added more. So I don't think that they can always be in your party.
Well, you know.
I think it changes here and there, like depending on who's in the spotlight currently. Except for your puppy. Your puppy's
Right.
always there. But I do think they could have given you a little more tactical and gear-based control over these people, even if you didn't control them, or
Right.
you, at least like I can't for the life of me understand why there wasn't any type of system for procking a like a joint combo or something like that. That doesn't make sense to me because there are points of the game where you go out with your brother or your love interest or your mentor. And even though that the story doesn't call for them to always be there, why can't you have like like partner commands in that time? I don't really understand that. That seems like something that would have made a lot of sense. But yeah,
More, yeah, I guess interactivity. You do
yeah,
like a Kingdom Hearts sort of thing, right? But I mean, I
right.
get it that
That's
the
exactly what I'm
story
talking
moves
about.
along forward, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
people get killed off and whatnot.
even your dog's combat system feels so tacked on that I just stopped using it because I didn't feel like it was really making an impact. It was more of just a distraction from me trying to get my combos to land perfectly.
Right.
And again, that's the more fun part of the game. So I guess focusing on the story and the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but if you know, you know. God, it was good. It was really good. Heartbreaking, uplifting. I cried. Like I legitimately I was shedding tears at the end of that story, and
Hey, that's good, right?
that's
Yeah.
always a good
If I
mark.
mean, yeah, if a game can make you cry, you're like we got a good game.
And not just like it struck a it struck a chord. It was a slow build from getting to know these characters over the course of a 60-hour story and
Right.
being like, wow, this is the conclusion they got to. That's really beautiful. Holy shit. Not to mention the game is, as I said before, it's bleak. It can be really bleak. And you get the sense that you're heading for you're heading for a conclusion that is as good as you can get, but it's not going to be like a fairy tale ending.
Right.
It's not going to be super happy. And so like I can appreciate that because it's realistic. It's not realistic because, obviously we're not summoning giant wizards out of the sky, but it's more down to earth. It's more like, hey, this is a tough world. These people are struggling against all odds. This enemy is an uber dick,
Right.
and so this is the best that they can do. And yeah, and that really worked for me. I liked it a lot.
Uh, yeah. I you're right though. Like Final Fantasies typically, I don't know, somber at best, too
Yeah,
tragic. I don't know. Final Fantasy IX had a great ending. You thought it was bad, but then it was like uh the
JK.
main character kind of like shows back up at like the perfect moment, and you're like, oh well, this is great. I'm happy. Life
Yeah, this
life
one
is
was
going to
like,
be awesome.
yeah.
It
No,
isn't.
my reaction at the end of this one was okay, okay.
Yeah. And then
Like, I guess this is what we're doing.
I 15 was a bit of a mess in that department, but the end was still like uh, tragic but beautiful, I think.
Here's what I'll say about 15. I cannot put that plot back together in my head at this point.
Because it's so disjointed,
But I
and from
don't
what I
really, I'm not sure at this point I even understand the ending anymore. And yeah, that is from it being disjointed, it being like a good
yeah.
amount of years since I played it. But even at the time, I was kind of confused about
Right.
what was being resolved.
No, it literally it is disjointed to the point where I think there was supposed to be so much. Well, first of all, look who directed the game. All right,
Hmm.
I mean, come on. It's
Yeah.
a Kingdom Hearts level of confusion at times, but I think there was supposed to be a lot more just story in there and character development in there for that to actually make sense. But
And
it
they
was
broke it apart to
presented,
sell it separately.
yeah. Well, it was, and I mean, and even then, it still wasn't enough, right? But
No,
I still think it was presented in a very beautiful way, I guess.
I do remember having like some really good moments.
Yeah, and there were
But
some things like when what's her face dies, you're just like, oh, okay,
is it Luna Frey? I know people
yeah,
die. Does he die in the end of 15?
yes, he dies at the end of 15, and
Okay.
then like, well, it just basically has like a moment where he could they're basically together in heaven or whatever,
Oh,
or the
okay.
afterlife,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So you're like, oh, this is sweet. This is
Mm.
really sad, and I'm crying, but this is nice.
Does that taste? That's bitter.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's bitter. So this bitter aftertaste. Yeah, I didn't hate it.
yeah.
I
And this, and I would say this I loved. Like I was a really big fan of, and it's a clear narrative throughout. And I'll even say the side quests don't muck that up that much because all the side quests do make sense with the greater world. Sometimes it makes a little less sense. Like, hey, you just killed a leader in this place and then you return to like find someone some onions and it's like, okay, sure. Like, that's
it
fine.
does seem like, I don't know, maybe it's focused, maybe it's always for the time their ambition is perhaps too much. I don't know, but it does seem like for the past couple of forever, Final Fantasy titles
Yeah,
are just they're like almost there. The
almost
things that
there.
they do right are so good. I will play
Hmm.
them, and enjoy them and still say they're a good game. But can't stop but thinking of like what if they had done something different here, right? What if it
Yeah,
was complete? What if they had more time and developed out these side quests and I don't know.
and I'm not, and I'm not sure there is much to be done here. It's just the foundation of what's going on here doesn't, I don't think it makes sense totally for the type of game they were creating.
Right.
I think they were holding on to RPG and MMORPG elements that maybe at one time, like the idea of having Final Fantasy XVI as closer to Final Fantasy XIV, I could see that being a theory in someone's head in the development studio. And instead, they just picked a few elements that would have reminded you of 14 a little bit,
Right.
but then wound up just feeling half baked.
I feel like that's just kind of a from them. That's just what that whole team. Of course, they probably brought some different people in,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
that entire team, and especially Yoshida, that's what they've been doing for when did 14 come out? A long time,
Yeah.
several years at this point. That's what they know, especially when it comes to making this sort of additional content. I mean, it seems clear to me that they wanted to. I really think they were picked to do this um, to begin with
Hmm.
to create that story, element, right? To bring that in to
Yeah.
tell like literally tell a grand tale.
Yeah. An
Uh,
epic, just
yeah,
crazy story, which they succeeded.
but I don't know. They seem to have maybe some be conflicted about what should Final Fantasy be in general moving forward. Is it more an action game? It's like, okay, well, our original fans are RPG fans, and we need to have like those elements in here, right? It's like, should we just drop those all together and just tell
Yeah.
the story through like a God of War sort of thing? That probably would have worked just fine.
Maybe closer to God of War because God of War has left that hack and slash
Right,
formula behind. Because I don't know if I had the thought if you were to format this game like a Devil May Cry, like a Devil May Cry 5,
right,
I think it would be overwhelming. It would be too much constantly, and it wouldn't feel like the world in general was shifting with the story. It would feel like back to back spectacle over and over and over and over again. And I think those moments
get this
where
party started.
yeah, I think those moments where they take the controller away from you and give you like action commands would feel too frequent if they didn't have this go back to base, craft some stuff,
Yeah.
do some side quests. I think the game does need those downtime sections, but maybe open up the exploration a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying the game has to be bigger, but change the way that you travel these places because it feels like a series of corridors and fields
Right.
and it doesn't feel lived in. It doesn't feel like you want to explore those things. It feels like you have to explore those things so you don't miss anything before you get to this town, which is a series of buildings and like 5 NPCs you can talk to.
Where God of War, I wanted like more, and I definitely wanted to explore everything. And I'm like, well, let me go see like these other realms, please,
Oh,
because
just
that
wait
just
till you
yeah,
finally play Ragnarok.
I know, I know.
God.
Uh they did such a good job there. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's I don't know. I would hope that they would just add more uh RPG elements into what they have, right? Because I mean, just because it is a more action oriented game,
Yeah.
why? And I know it becomes like more of a time constraint too. Like clearly they worked a long time and very hard on that combat, right? And could kind of just figuring out what works for them as Square Enix doing something like that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then the story and all that. Um, but just looking at everything, not even playing myself, it's obviously it's just an afterthought. Why why does this stuff have to be an afterthought? Because it's the part that makes the game just as much as everything else.
Yeah, and it could have just been a little more inspired.
Yeah,
Um, but on a higher note, oh my God, the music in this game is fantastic.
I do love good music.
I mean, I'm talking like boss fight musical crescendos that like get your blood pumping. You're like, oh my God,
Yeah,
Jesus. There are some. I thought about
I
this
think
as
that's
I was
it's
in the.
actually another thing that 14 I think does well too. Is some of the
Oh yeah,
music and the placement of when like it kicks off
yeah.
is epic.
Well, because you want to be able to pick tunes out. It's not just you need a triumphant score because it's a boss fight, and you need something lighter when it's not. It's like
Right.
sometimes a boss fight needs like a weird dark track that makes you feel confused.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when the tide turns, it's like
And
it's like, yeah,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
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 Like
Like
and
I feel amazing. I feel like a badass just because the tone of the music changed and
right.
the
And that's
things are
one
popping
thing
off.
Final Fantasy I don't think Final Fantasy could ever miss on.
No, they haven't.
Just
So like ever.
it just works and this just as much as anything else. I think a decade later, I'm still going to go back to 16 as like one of my favorite soundtracks next to 7, 9, 10, 16 probably.
Again, 15 had great music too.
15 did have great music,
Yeah,
especially the they got a little creative with
yeah,
the different settings.
yeah.
That was really cool. But the thing that I gathered when I was in the middle of like, a Final Fantasy game, it's like once you're ready to finish it, you're going to have 4 hours of boss fights. It's not just going to be, okay, let's go finish it in 30 minutes. It's like, no, you're going to fight this phase, and then it's going to take you
Of
to like
course.
some other realm, and you're going to fight this phase and this phase. And then you're going to be turned into like a dog for some reason. Not saying that happened. And then you have to fight as animals. And then, I don't know, then the
Oh,
world.
okay. Then some dude with one wing comes out with a giant katana and
Oh, so you did see the end.
oh, oh no.
There is totally a guy with one wing at the end here. I'm not
No,
even
of course
joking.
there is. Of course there is.
And then Bahamut comes and just punches a hole through a giant crystal floating in the sky.
But
That did
that's kind of
happen.
like just maybe even Final Fantasy at this point, though. So that's cool.
And I think when you finally get your hands on this, you're gonna feel very fan servicey of like, yeah, I always wanted to watch Bahamut team up with
Yeah.
like Ifrit and the Phoenix. Like, yes, awesome.
I definitely remember hearing several years ago Yoshida talk about his ideas of just making like a Final Fantasy game when they were like redoing 14 and
Mm-hmm.
like he really contemplates what makes a Final Fantasy game and he's very big on
Spectacle.
those elements. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just those crazy whoa moments.
Yeah. Obviously like the icons and the summons and big spectacles and the dudes with one wings and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
And there's such a it's like Final Fantasy meets or it's like Game of Thrones meets Dragon Ball Z. That's just I couldn't let go of that collection the whole time. I was like, it's yeah, you take the craziness of that and you literally just throw some Dragon Ball Z into it. And it's just like unsurmountable odds, sheer force of will, battles that just keep going and going and going and going, and
Lots
people
of screaming
sacrificing
men.
themselves, lots of screaming. Yeah. Brother!
Yeah.
All that stuff. It's fun. It's good. Um, and I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
And I can't say that, like, I looked up and I know that there's DLC plans. I think it'll be a while before I touch those. Just like I have still not played the DLC for 15
Yeah.
because it wasn't there when I played it.
Yeah, of course.
And now that it is, I'm kind of good. I might just go on YouTube and watch those.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think that was like fully complete. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think it did exist, but yeah, at that
It
point I
was
was kind of like,
side
okay,
stuff for the characters like Prompto,
yeah,
Gladiolus, and
yeah,
Ignis.
which which is cool, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Once the story's over,
But I'll tell
story's
you right
over.
now, playing the original cut of that game when they're just like, "Hey guys, I have something to do," and then they just walk off. You're like,
Yeah, they did
"What?
do. Yeah,
Like, are you serious?" It's like, I remember playing that and just being so confused. I was like, "Where did Prompto just go? And
that's
why
weird.
is he super depressed now that he's back?"
Find out in DLC. It that is super weird. Like obviously, like oh, we could have this breakaway to have this DLC that won't be out till forever. I
Yeah.
don't get. I definitely that's like one of those things. It's like okay, well, I mean, I get maybe you a
Who put this on the
DLC if you
whiteboard?
want to. Why can't we just have some sort of moment where we can choose to go do this thing with Prompto to help him
Yeah,
out with whatever he has to do?
we're playing Final Fantasy. We're so willing to make a story divergence. Like,
Yeah,
let's
please, that way I can have more character development, but whatever.
yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, the big bad's up in the sky waiting to destroy the earth. Let's go find this person's cats. Like, I'm down. I'm fine. It's
Yeah, please.
except in this case, I was really annoyed when that happened. I was like, nope, I'm done.
Well, especially if it leads to like, my ultimate weapon for that particular character and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even care about the ultimate weapon in this game. I was just like, whatever. Apparently, you have to beat the whole game twice to even get it, and I'm like, go
Nope.
to hell. Go to
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah, I don't like
That's
that at all. I
stupid.
don't arbitrarily put like you know what? I don't like New Game Plus. I just don't. I don't at all. And if I ever want to go play a game again, I just want to restart.
I'm likely gonna want to restart because having all the stuff, unless there's so much more to get, like if there's a
Right.
game where, like God of War Ragnarok, I think maybe I'll appreciate New Game Plus because I left that game with a lot of stuff undone because either it was too hard or I was just ready for the game to be done.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind going and completing all those challenges, and maybe I wouldn't want to start from scratch for that. But for the most part, I don't want to beat a game when all you have to do is run through the story.
Yeah.
And these days, who has time for New Game Plus anyway? My God.
I don't know. As I understand. I'm not going to knock anybody who enjoys New Game Plus. Clearly, there's enough people that do.
Yeah.
It's just you know I don't know. I mean, I guess that's part of it. You want to experience the journey again, right? But you don't feel like grinding out for a lot of the things, and maybe you just want to run through and just poop on everything.
Yeah.
Or I mean, of course, there's like ramping difficulty with things like Dark Souls and stuff. But
Yeah. And a lot of
um,
times, your character by the end of a game, you get used to how that character operates
yeah,
and feels with all of your skills and your whatever. And it is hard to go back to the bare bones version of that. So I
right.
do understand it in that case. Like Spider-Man
Yeah.
was a good one.
And
When
I think I don't know. I think in most cases, if I am going to go play a game again, it's when I can like have a different sort of build completely and
yeah,
run through. Right. And
yeah,
again, I'm just gonna want to restart to do that.
yeah,
If it is there, well, I definitely mean there's a lot of just some of those single player experiences that don't have any sort of reason, in my opinion, to have a new game plus, but they're
mhm,
just kind of put in there for because some people enjoy them, but it's like, well, what exactly am I doing differently? I'm just running through, but I'm OP now, and that kind of bores me
Yeah. I will say I think it
personally.
makes sense in the case of 16 because like I said earlier, your final summon, like or your final two summons, Shiva and then Odin, you don't get a lot of time to play around with them.
Right.
And so I guess it would be nice to go back to the beginning and have like this entire option wheel of skills to play with
Yeah.
instead of just having like to gradually unlocking them.
Yeah. But I mean, for that, I say traditionally, right? We have in-game content in RPGs and JRPGs where there's like big final bosses we can go fight and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of times I do that before I even beat the final boss anyway.
That's true.
That can, of course, cause me to walk away from a game because I'm just like, okay, I'm burnt out before I beat it, and I'll come back like a year or two later and finally beat the game.
That's what I did this weekend. I was just like, I'm not like I'm going to beat this game Sunday.
Yeah,
And I made that choice. And that's when I was just like, I'm moving through it. I'm not gonna let this game burn me out. And I wanted to see the end so badly.
right.
And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta push through. It helps to have a podcast, right? Or any sort of like
This did
YouTube
feel like a
channel or
deadline.
anything. Yeah, you know, it's like, well, we need content. So, I mean, kudos. I don't know what we would have talked about this week if you didn't beat this game, and now we have an entire episode out of it.
Boom. That's true.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm out of breath.
Yeah. But
Um,
boy, do we like talking about Final Fantasy.
we do. We sure do.
Prepare your ear holes for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because whoo!
You
Oh, and that
haven't
just looks,
sick. My
yeah,
God. So we did that episode and then I actually went and read up a whole bunch of stuff and watched a whole bunch of stuff and
same.
God, that game looks good. And
Yeah,
when
I
they
know.
said it's a fully explorable map
Yeah. It is like
that
one to one, like it
that you
is,
go into town, I'm like,
yeah,
hell yeah. Like
yeah.
that's
And
exactly
it's
what I
just,
want.
well, this is like I don't remember his name, but the director, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy VII remake, Final Fantasy 15. That's he.
Oh,
Yeah, he definitely did. Yeah, he did 7. Um,
yeah.
while you look up the name here for us,
I'm not
I
doing that. I remember
I
Nomura.
feel like this is his like grand ambition where he's clearly just been given the time and the run ahead to just do everything that he wants to do.
Well, when
And
you
it's kind
say
of,
7, Square Enix goes, take all the money
yeah.
that we're not using for NFTs and closing studios.
Well, and now you don't have to like completely. Well, I think that's got to be 15's engine, kind of fully realized, because there's definitely similarities, which I really like.
Yeah.
Whatever engine that is, I don't know why. I just like, minus the sort of bugginess that comes from, like, from what I remember,
Mm,
7 played great, or at least a lot better. 15 was, of course, a little bit buggy, but they kind of like ironed out the kinks. But now they have all that. They have a lot of the assets, and they kind of just can expand this world
yeah.
and add on to the combat and stuff. But there's just so much that's clearly going to be in this game. Just everything, like all the mini games, all the area, the space that was in the original, just fully realized in this big open 3D environment with,
Yeah. I
yeah,
was I was having a thought like speaking strictly from the perspective of the two of us.
right,
Because you're the person that I've talked about Final Fantasy VII with the most over my entire lifetime.
right,
Um, the first episode of the remake was fan service, and it was like this realization,
yeah.
but it felt like a taste. It was like, oh my God, can you
It
imagine
was.
what they're still gonna
The
do? Can
second
you
it
imagine what
ended,
you're
it's
still gonna
like
do?
I wanted to keep going. Like I
Right.
like really wanted to just like,
Yeah.
the second you end I wanted to be in that open world right where disc 2 would start, pops off in the original, and
Yeah.
I was sad that
Yeah.
it didn't
And I
have that
was
yet.
left with the feeling like it felt really cool and awesome,
Yeah,
but it felt like a reimagining of a very short aspect of that game.
yeah,
This feels like they are going to blow up the game to something that
yeah.
we cannot perceive, and that's extremely exciting.
It is. It
I,
really
I
is.
feel like we're
Right.
going to be calling each other every day and be like, not yet, save it for the podcast.
Definitely.
Also, it's going to be
I
so hard to play that game slowly
Yeah,
because we're going to have to, but
I know.
I'm going to be really excited to see what they change or don't change.
Yeah, that will be really interesting, right? To see exactly what they are going to change. I mean, not to mention just from a sheer aspect of like story wise, there is still that whole bit where we're seeing um Zach, you know,
Hmm.
during the Final Fantasy, the first part one, Final Fantasy VII part one.
And is
So we don't know if he's going to actually be in the game, if they're like retconning all that, or we're just
is
going to get,
Aerith going to die?
yeah, is
Are they
Aerith
going
going to,
to kill Tifa instead? Because I will be so pissed.
yeah, no, Aerith's got to go at that point, right? Like, if,
Yeah,
if you're going to make me choose,
you're not taking my Tifa away from me. She
yeah,
is my hero.
yeah. Um, like them
She's the
both.
she's the character that I envisioned myself as when I was just a little confused child
Yeah,
playing the
yeah,
game and was like,
yeah.
okay. And then, you and I are going to be so annoying toward the end of that game because we're going to be like, what does this mean for episode 3? Are they going to scale it down? Are they was it, can I just be
What
happy?
does it mean?
I'm
What's
already wondering about that. Like, does that game
is
have
that?
to
Are we
be
just going to run
smaller?
through to
Yeah.
Sephiroth? I don't
do
know.
do they give you access to the entire map and let you carry your progress over to just finish it out? Is it like
I would assume they're maybe just gonna curate the content to have like enough, or they gotta just do,
there it is. I see that look in your eyes. It's the same way I felt. You're like, oh
yeah.
my
I, are fuck. I don't know. I don't want to think about it. Why are you making me think about
I
it?
don't
I
know.
just want to enjoy the second one. God damn it.
Yeah, I told you. I told you. I'm super annoying.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
already.
it's just so much. It's already shaping up to be so much.
I know. It's
And then
pretty crazy.
how? Well, how do they kind of? What, uh,
That
never
he's
mind.
broken, folks. Matt's
Yeah,
broken.
you broke my brain.
Uh-oh.
You broke my brain. Did you see the whole
Oh my
thing
God,
about
your
like
hair turned white.
nice the combo attacks and stuff like that they're adding,
Yeah.
or the synergy attacks? I think
Yeah,
what
and
they're calling them.
one of my favorite characters of all time.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
That
So
is
I mean, now there's. I like the idea that, well, in part one, it's more so you have the characters when you have the characters, and
yeah.
certain enemies have their weaknesses to that. But of course, this, we're kind of like getting maybe most, if not all, of the party, right? Like, why are we just going to be constantly hot swapping? I mean, when you think about it, okay, like a Vincent can fulfill the same role as a Barrett in terms of if something's in the sky and I need a long range person
Yeah,
to
yeah.
shoot at them. Either one of those can do it. But then, I mean, the other character, I guess it depends. But then we're also adding in the combo attacks and these party synergies, and kind of makes even more sense to maybe like what's my party, you know?
Yeah, what's mine look like versus somebody else's. And I mean, I don't hate that. I kind of like that idea. You know,
Especially if like maybe some of these like synergy attacks can fill some of those gaps, right? Like,
yeah.
oh, well, you need. I don't remember exactly how it went in the first one, but let's say you need somebody who can, deal damage to a heavy defense monster or something, and you don't
Mhm.
have that in your current party setup. But these two combo attacks, like it penetrates defense or something like
Yeah,
that.
or you
You know?
have some materia somewhere that
Yeah,
does like
that
a
too.
uber hit or a summon.
And I will be interested to see, some of the materia. Are we going to
Yeah.
get like some of the all cuts and the
Oh,
X4 stuff and all that good stuff?
I'm sure the materia is gonna be because
Meteor,
I love that system in
yeah,
7 Remake.
said,
Just I liked leveling up materia, that was so fun. More than in the original.
and that
Oh,
well, they did put the morph or whatever
yeah,
into that, so
that's true.
clearly they're thinking about which is some of the best way to just kind of make materia. Um, Clearly, some of those mechanics at least are coming back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but I would like to kind of see it. It'll be interesting to see, but I would like to see it on that level where I can really combine to make some crazy sort of combinations. But I
Yeah.
don't know what that looks like. I don't know what, all slash times 2 or 4 or whatever it looks like.
It
And
looks awesome.
yeah,
That's what it looks like.
you're right.
Well, maybe, one of
Death
these
blow.
days one of these days while waiting for that, because we have all the way till February, we can both beat episode intergrade and chat about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe do a return to the ending of 7 and share our thoughts about where the story is going to go.
I
Uh,
do feel like I do want to play it again, right? Especially with the integrated adding stuff in. I just surely like now inside like, well, yeah, Yuffie's 100% one of my favorite characters.
yeah,
Which really they're all just so great. I love
they're
all
all
of them.
great.
So it's the entire
Except
list of characters is my favorite character list from Final Fantasy VII. But
not
there's
Kate
an
Sith.
order, and well, yeah, but you're right.
He can go to hell.
Uh, but Yuffie's I don't know top three maybe.
Yeah, I named my dog Yuffie.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Yuffie, so I don't know why I haven't played that just to play her.
I
Especially
know.
just how the rest of that game is and how good it feels to a different character and how unique that they feel. Like I
Yeah,
love playing Tifa so much that it's like hard. It's like, wow, I love Cloud and he shits on things, but I really want to play
yeah,
Tifa. I does make me kind of wish there was maybe, and I think maybe they did also add. I forgot to mention one of my favorite. I think one of my favorite aspects of the whole combo system is to build up that bar. Is you play those characters, like you swap to those characters and do something with
oh yeah, yeah.
your ATB, and
Mm-hmm.
that'll build up like the combo meter stuff
Yeah.
to use on
So
those
maybe it is
characters.
hot swap the whole
So it
time. That'd
is
be
kind of
cool.
like you kind of like go back and forth and do the things that they need to do, which
So that's even
is
like more tactical than the first game was.
yeah, which is perfect, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
that's
great.
that's kind of what we need.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Well, maybe
I
you and I really
super
need to revisit
digress
it.
as we normally do. Yeah, I've got to revisit it. Want to see what Yuffie's plays like,
All right,
right?
well,
Like what is her thing?
we got 5 months to go back through Final Fantasy VII Remake and episode intergrade
Right.
or intermission or interlude, whatever the three naming convention thing that they want to go with. I hate it so much. Um, yeah, mine's called like episode intermission because I had the deluxe and I had to. I hate it. They
Yeah.
need to stop. But yeah, we'll do that for sure between now and February. You just let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for today, folks. That was our wrap up of Final Fantasy 16. You're never going to hear about it again until Matt beats it eventually.
Yeah. Then one. You better believe we're gonna talk about it.
So. I'm excited for you. Don't wait too long. I mean, I know you can't play it right
Gotta
now,
yeah, I gotta buy a. But
but
we are looking at. So
yeah, you're going to have to get a PlayStation 5 between
I
now and the
know.
end of the year anyway.
Yeah, I literally have to.
Haha. All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe on YouTube or wherever. Leave a comment if you want. Send us a question to thenerdinggrounds@gmail.com. Tell your friends. And most importantly, be kind to one another and enjoy your week or weekend. Thanks.
Whenever
Bye.
you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Bye.